In this video, we'll be reviewing the rules for spelling numbers in writing. We'll cover when to use numerals instead of spelling the number out, what to do when starting a sentence with a number, what to do when you have two numbers side by side, and numerals used together with a unit of measurement. Before jumping in, it should be pointed out that different editorial style manuals have different rules for writing out numbers. This guide focuses on the APA Manual of Style. What's important is to familiarize yourself with the rules of one style and stick with it. That being said, let's get right into it. Let's start with the most common rule. In general, spell out numbers from 0 through 9 and use numerals for numbers 10 and up. For example, you would write out the word for "there are 3 members at the meeting," but use the numeral for "there are 16 patches in the blanket." This rule helps make smaller numbers feel more natural in the flow of a sentence while making larger numbers stand out clearly. However, consistency is key. If you're writing a sentence or paragraph that includes several numbers, some below 10 and some above, many style guides suggest writing numerals for all of them to maintain clarity and visual consistency. For example, we interviewed 3 teachers, 12 students, and 9 parents. Even though 3 and 9 would normally be spelled out, putting all 3 as numerals keeps the list visually uniform. Another important rule relates to numbers that start a sentence. Regardless of how large the number is, you should always spell it out if it comes at the very beginning of a sentence. For example, 25 students attended the lecture. Starting with the numeral 25 would look awkward and is generally avoided in formal writing. But what if the number is much larger, say 1,243 students? In that case, instead of starting the sentence by writing out this entire number, the author will rearrange the sentence. For example, a total of 1,243 students attended the lecture. Another option is to write the sentence in the passive tense. The lecture was attended by 1,243 students. This way, we keep the rule of not starting a sentence with a numeral, but we also don't have to write the number out in its entirety. Next, we'll discuss what to do when 2 numbers appear side by side in a sentence. This often happens when one number describes another, such as when giving measurements, ages, quantities, etc. In these cases, to avoid confusion, it's a good idea to spell out one of the numbers and keep the other as a numeral. For example, we bought 3 5-gallon containers of paint. Notice that 3 is spelled out, but 5 remains a numeral to help the reader quickly understand the measurement. Another example would be, I have 2 12-year-old dogs. Again, spelling out 2, but keeping 12 as a numeral keeps the sentence clean and easy to read. Switching both to numerals, 2 12-year-old dogs, could be confusing at a glance, and can look like I have 212-year-old dogs. Now let's touch on some additional guidelines. When writing centuries, academic disciplines often differ. For example, history books often spell out centuries, the 18th century. But scientific or technical writing might prefer numerals with ordinal endings, the 18th century. Whichever format you choose, just make sure you're consistent within the same piece of writing. Another point worth mentioning is the use of numerals with units of measurement, including dates, addresses, percentages, and time. In general, when using units, numerals are preferred. For example, 50 miles, 10%, 7:30 p.m., 10 pounds, 7 years old, etc. And that wraps up our review on spelling numbers. We've covered when to use numerals versus spelling them out, what to do when starting a sentence with a number, how to format 2 numbers side by side, and writing numbers attached to a unit of measurement. Make sure to watch the rest of the videos in the series for a comprehensive review and keep practicing.